My third guy plays some games. Alright, hi everybody, Weather Guy here. We are back with some more great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We are at the conclusion of the first case of Resolve, where we saved Ray. So we're feeling good. Let's see what we have to say post-trial, right? It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Oh, there's our boy Ryu. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such a great burden to bear. We'll hopefully get into the second case today as well. We'll see. Don't they? Oh, who is this? Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there. Right, and Father. Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry. Oh, brother. It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end, too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. That's nice. Sasada, don't be so standoffish. Sorry? We're friends, equals, and the trial's over. So, no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger. To throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryutaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow. Or something. Right, I see. Man, these are clearly... this looks such good best friend vibes, you know? Like, this is how people actually talk, right? I kind of like it. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together? That was a crazy scene when they did takedowns at the same time. That was great. Hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh my goodness, no, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney Ryutaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryutaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Sasada Mikitoba now. So, I'll never see him again? Oh, this is so weird. Oh, who is this? Oh no, it's Soseki and it's Hasanaga. What is happening? Ah, Soseki and Inspector Hasanaga, I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Sasada Mikitoba. I don't. So dashing, so divine. No. Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine. Just look at you. I had no idea, Mrs. Sato Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire's son and cousin. Gosh, it's a mouthful. Astonishing, astounding, Ace Attorney. There's the title. We never hear Ace Attorney, really. Maybe once a game, it seems like. Poor Soseki, so confused. I still remember the first time I ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. Yeah, that was a pretty interesting case. I like that one a lot. But after Ryu's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Soseki was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm a chief inspector at the police bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less? Dude, when are we going to hear about why he's bleeding? From the mouth, right? I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. Hosanaga's great. I hope he's more present in this game as well. do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes, I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. Look how beat up he got, that's hilarious. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. But that didn't help you, did it, Kazuma? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the English woman committed at the end of last year. Yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. I can't wait till we find out that answer, right? On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter with Mr. Herlock Holmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Holmes well, of course. Ah, my arch-nemesis! How lightly you utter his name! Well, according to the stories published about him in the Adventures of Herlock Holmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes. Best friend. That man was an exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. Yeah, just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner, Mr. Holmes. Mikitoba might know this because he was a colleague, right? Oh, Wilson's. If that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. Very true. She doesn't know what happened. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University. But I also serve another role as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Oh no, but you're my dad. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know. Because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Yeah. Dear me, do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear, I simply can't... Take down? No, it's Minamemo. Minamemo? So, one throw wasn't enough for you? I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her. The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Is this about Kazuma? He must mean... Kazuma? What are you talking about? What does this have... Any of this has to do with Kazuma? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know that the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship. That he'll never... What the fuck? Okay, sure. Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What were you officers playing at? Terribly sorry, Your Excellency. Man, I just want us to know. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived, Eugen, and it's a good job I came by. Yes, thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency... Ha 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 ha. The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friends. And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Sasato. Did you know all along, from the start of the trial? Ha 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 ha. A judge sees everything, Sasato. Couldn't let you take the risk if Shishiro here hadn't known and he'd recognized you, so I had a word in his ear beforehand as an old friend. So, Shishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Where you go, Father? Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. Man, he's really avoiding us, right? Well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much. What did you think of my Sashiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Ha 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 ha. Alright, this is weird seeing the judge like this, from behind the bench. Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett? About Dr. Wilson? And now it seems, according to the reporter, about Kazuma. I'm gonna have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Oh no. Judicial Assistant Mikitoba's son, Esquires, could I have a word? Oh yes, of course, Soseki. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. Yes, I have to hear. Please, Soseki, tell me at once. I will. This guy's so extra. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on the ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikitoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you asking you to return to Japan. What was it then, the particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I could never forget. Your father seemed concerned himself mainly with the second case. Second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. Interesting. The case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought the whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. Interesting, because that case felt fairly irrelevant, right? Whenever we first went through it. But there may be more. Cutscene.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san.
It's a beautiful tree.
But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery.
Interesting.
My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue.
What a beautiful scene.
It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
So, does this mean we're gonna jump over back to Rio? We're going to try to find those notes. That's what it seems to me. Seems to be to me. But that's case 1 complete of Resolve. Episode 1. And we're going to go ahead and start on episode 2. Pow. The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Yeah. The case from the first game, from the Adventures, right? Was the second. That case was the Clouded Kokoro. That was the one where it was a very foggy street and somebody threw a book out a window. And then a lady bent down to pick up the book, and as she bent down to pick up the book, the same person threw a knife out the window, and that knife stabbed her in the back. And Saseki was a prime suspect in that case. Very curious. So we're now on the Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Great. We're going to go ahead and start on this a little bit. So I'm curious about what the case would actually be here, right? There's going to be another murder?
A ghastly tale of a winter's night. One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved.
That's right, because she survived.
But
I always forget that she lives.
had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight. Then in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight, did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival...
So this is actually a flashback case.
It only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
This is that Shakespearean guy from the first game that we only saw one scene of. Interesting. Interesting. My name is Ryu. I'm a fledgling lawyer just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law, having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. And we're staying in his attic. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. Since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. That epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber, thanks to a letter that I read this morning from my homeland. Yeah? Is that the cat? What a delicious smell, wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. I'd better go down to Mr. Holmes' suite. Say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. Alright. This lovely place of Herlock Holmes once again. Ah, Bruno, good. I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. Morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise this morning. Shh, not another word, Mr. Ryu. This could be just the abstruse thing from my pre-breakfast stagnation-repelling mental stimulation, my dear fellow. Morning to you, too, Mr. Holmes. Ah, yes, I see. So that's it. He's so great. The truth is as clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Ryu, you have, this very morning, met with a surprise. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you having been flustered this morning. Can I talk now? But of course, though I don't look for admiration, you understand. My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has. And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Really pulled your button off. Ah, yes, I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped. Why did it have to happen? Why? Little wonder then that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. Well, I'd like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. Helpful. What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. But Hurley, Bruno said it when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Ah ha ha ha. Well, that really is a surprise. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire, the famous consulting detective, Mr. Herlock Holmes. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it gets cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too. My latest special blend. Great, let's try some tea and some bacon. Here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Holmes' lodger and companion. Truly exceptional young girl who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Herlock Holmes, as published in Rance magazine. So, Mr. Ryu, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Oh, well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it really? That's right, and she had some rather startling news, in fact. Ah, intriguing indeed. You must tell us all about it over breakfast! Well, yes, what fun! Come on, let's get to it. I want to see what's in the letter. This is the letter that I arrived from Japan this morning, by international post. Oh, how lovely. Look at Susie's beautiful handwriting. I wish I could read it. Can she not read? And how is your judicial assistant faring, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Oh, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? A cut above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume. No, I don't recall that name. Of course you do. We helped the man twice. You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago? Ah, the mustache, twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and the mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Although I must confess the details are a little hazy now. Very deep impression they made on you, clearly. So, what was the startling news penned by Mr. Sato? You remember the case of the haunted lodgings, Mr. Holmes? Now, just to be clear, for everyone else, if you're just tuning into this part of the game, for whatever reason, we have not done this case. The player has not done this case yet in the 2 games, but it apparently already happened in the past, so it appears that we're going to maybe be revisiting it through flashbacks of some sort, if I had to guess. Ah, yes, it's very interesting, you know. I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur. I've totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Mrs. Sato asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago? For what purpose? Because of something that Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have something to do with that case at the haunted lodgings. Oh. On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Mrs. Sato's father questioned him about the case, she says. Something Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikitoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes. Whatever. It was very strange, wasn't it? I wish they would just spoil the case for us now before we go to the flashbacks. So we don't have to solve it anyway. And I compiled the whole story into a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. Then Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. That story must not be published, she said, very mysteriously as well. Really? I said that. Are you sure? Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Mrs. Sato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan? Indeed it was. Due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. Dude, we just talked about this. That's right, telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. No, it just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He's not dead. But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so that she'd make the voyage back home? Why would he do that? I have to admit I have absolutely no idea. She believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. I wonder what Mrs. Sato's father is hiding. Hurley, do you know what it's all about? I think Hurley actually does know, but he's not going to divulge it. Well, who can say? What? But you said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive. I feel, even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? I will, Hurley, don't worry. See you later. Alright, guess that I'll have to do. He scuttled off rather quickly there. So true. I think perhaps Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. Seke was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! Found them at last! Iris, are they... The notes about the case? That's right. Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Runo? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case, but perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. Alright. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because, of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. Not sure why that's the case, by the way. But we'll find out, I'm sure. It was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded on the wintry streets of London. That was the first case that we actually did. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick and nobody saw her attack her, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Soseki, and the man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Susato and I decided to represent Soseki in court. And after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Yep. Was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to Bart's at once. So Sato and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. Alright. This is actually, it's early. It's really early, but this is where we're going to stop today. Right before we talk to the victim from that case so long ago and hear her perspective on it. Because I think this is a good spot. We'll probably do this and do everything leading up to a trial next time, maybe. We'll see. But this is a good stopping spot, I feel like. Right before we start talking to witnesses and victims again. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. Y'all are amazing, as always. Make sure that you take care of yourselves. Make sure you take care of others. And I'll see you next time. Peace out.